Does your guitar playing lack fire and pizzazz? Are you playing all the right notes, but something seems to be missing? Imagine sitting down to a big bowl of chili with the meat, the tomatoes, the onions, but the cook forgot to put in the chili powder. Even if you're making the right note choices, if your playing is lacking this one special ingredient, your licks and phrases are going to sound boring and lifeless. That special ingredient? Rhythmic variation. Great players are constantly shifting gears, mixing up subdivisions, leaving space, and starting licks in unexpected places. That's what gives their playing fire, personality, and that conversational feel that we love so much. In this video, I'm going to show you how to start adding this crucial ingredient to your soloing stew. So grab your guitar, let's start cooking. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. This is what I hear from so many players when they first get into soloing. And this only makes sense because they're spending so much of their time practicing by running scales straight up and down along with a metronome, trying to get things tight. Almost all the licks start on the downbeat, and even over a funky groove, their attempts at soloing sound like this. It's like a run-on sentence with no punctuation. And even if they try to break things up and leave some space, all too often it sounds like they're stuck in one rhythmic subdivision like 16th notes because that's all they practice. So let's fix it. We're going to go over 3 principles of creative rhythmic phrasing that are going to become part of your practice sessions. And in turn, it'll become an important part of how you play. Let's jump right into our first principle, which is starting licks on a beat other than the 1. I'm going to put the blame for this bad habit on how we practice with a metronome. And I know because it's something I've been guilty of too. We almost always start scales on a root note, which is another bad habit. And we usually start the scale on the first click of a measure. Most metronomes even have a different sounding click on the 1 to make sure that you hear it. And that's important. You got to learn to feel where that 1 is. But that doesn't mean every lick has to start there. Let me show you a great way to practice the skill of starting your licks on different parts of the beat. We're going to be playing over a funky backing track in A minor today, and the track is at 94 beats a minute. Here's the drill. We're going to come up with a simple lick, something like this pentatonic scale run in 16th notes. Notice how I gave those 16th notes a little bit of swing. The backing track, it's already funky and syncopated, so we don't want to hear straight 8th or 16th notes over it. And that's something else I hear a lot from newer players. The exercise is we're going to play the same lick, but each time we play it, we're going to start on a different beat in the measure. To make it simple, let's just divide the beats into half. So the first time through, we're going to start it on the 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next time through, we're going to start it on the and of 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Then we'd start on the 2, the and of 2, and so on, right through the and of 4. What you're going to feel is how the accents change, and it's going to teach you how to feel where you are in the beat. Your ear is going to start changing, and you're going to hear different stuff, which is awesome. Let me give this a try with the backing track so you get a good idea of what we're getting at here. Have a listen. Okay, here's a variation on the exercise. The first time through, we played a lick that was made up of all the same subdivisions, 16th notes. For a variation, what we're going to play is a phrase where we start off with a bent note that lasts for 2 beats, so a half note followed by 8 16th notes, and then we end on another half note. It's just a bluesy little thing. But the first time through, when we play it starting on the 1, everything is going to line up with the 2 half notes occurring on a downbeat. But the next time through, we would start on the and of 1, and the second half note is also on the and of 1. It's a totally different feel. It flips the sound of the lick upside down, which is very cool. Let's play through this a couple of times over the track and see if we can keep it going. Let's go. Another awesome technique that we hear many great players use, and I'll mention Robben Ford and Eric Johnson here, is to disguise a phrase that you want to start on the 1 with some pickup notes from a previous measure. Awesome shredder Andy Wood always refers to this as a windup when he talks about Eric Johnson's playing. And one of Robben Ford's trademark moves, he starts phrases on the 4 or the and of 4 leading into the next measure. We might hear Eric Johnson do something like this leading up to one of his passages of descending 5s. And Robben Ford, he'll start off so many blues licks like this. So here's the best way to practice coming in with that windup. We're just going to get in there and get after it, but we're going to start with a 1-note lead in. For instance, I can play a C on the and of 4 and bend D up to E on the 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now if I wanted 2 notes as a windup, I'd play C and D on as 16th notes on the and of 4 and then play the E on the 1 of the next measure. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Challenge yourself to keep it going. 3 notes. We can do 5 notes. I'm even going to play a 10-note windup over the backing track in just a moment. Try to keep coming up with these type of licks, and when you come up with something really good, write it down or record it. I'm going to mix it up now over the backing track. Here we go. Before we get into our second and third principles, I want to take a moment to tell you about a course I have called the Lead Guitar Roadmap. Everything we're talking about today. Phrasing, making your notes sound conversational and intentional, moving ideas fluidly around the fretboard. That's exactly what the course is built around. It's a step-by-step system that takes you through the fundamentals all the way up to playing full solos with feeling and expression. If you're serious about taking your lead playing to the next level, the link is in the description below. Okay, let's get back to it with our second principle. If you do nothing else but switch up the beat that you start your licks and phrases on, your playing is already going to sound way more interesting. But the second concept we're going to explore is one that's going to blow the lid off your playing and make it sound way more professional. Principle number 2 is mix up the subdivisions you play. Some of the guitarists that I enjoy most are absolute masters at shifting gears mid-lick. I first became really aware of this principle back in the 1990s when I was lucky enough to hang out and watch Tony MacAlpine practice. He was visiting my guitar teacher at the time, and when I arrived from my lesson, there was Tony just blazing away. Now at that time, he seemed to be playing a lot of passages where he'd play these beautiful melodic sustaining bends, and then out of nowhere he'd follow it up with some impossible tapping lick or sick arpeggio played at warp speed. It sort of felt like those moments on a roller coaster where you're inching up slowly to the peak of a giant hill, and then all of a sudden, whoosh, you go over the top and you're just flying. And you don't have to be a shred god to make this concept sound really dramatic and amazing. All you have to do is commit to one principle when you're making up your licks, And that is, you're going to play at least 2 different subdivisions in every lick. And you can start out super simple. A great exercise is to pick a rhythmic pattern and keep using that pattern, but change the notes that you play each time. Let's try this. How about a half note, followed by a 16th note triplet, followed by 3 16th notes, and then one last 16th note tied to an 8th notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's our rhythm. We could move it here, or here. The idea is to challenge yourself to keep coming up with new notes, so you're improvising a new melody each time through, but you keep that rhythm intact. Let me do a few more over the backing track and see how it sounds. As you get better and better at this, of course, you can push yourself to come up with longer and more complex phrases. Let me show you a longer line that incorporates the gear shifts, as I call it, that I hear in Eric Johnson, Eric Gales, Joe Bonamassa, and of course, many other players, but those are a few of my favorites. I'm going to play a measure of 16th notes, followed by a measure of 16th note sextuplets. Now, this is all A minor pentatonic, so it's nothing fancy scale-wise. But the idea is just to flow seamlessly from one subdivision to the next. We want to make it sound natural, but also intentional. And yeah, you're going to have to work out some of these licks so that you can have them in your arsenal. But all great players put that work in. I think that surprises a lot of people. That when you hear a great player rip through an awesome lick, that it's essentially something that they've worked out or written, and then they practiced it a lot to make it part of their DNA. Let's have a listen to this longer lick over the backing track. Here we go. Now, our third and last rule of rhythm, it falls under the heading, the notes that you don't play can be just as important as the notes that you do play. We're talking about the use of space, not playing anything. Think about it like this. Human beings can't talk on and on endlessly because we got to take time here and there to breathe. And if you want your guitar playing to sound more conversational, you got to let it breathe too. Here's a great way to practice leaving space between your phrases. Pay attention to your breathing when you're practicing soloing over a track. While you're breathing in, play. When you start to exhale, stop breathing and let your solo exhale with you. And alternately, we can do an exercise that's a little more concrete. You can play for a measure, rest for a measure. Or play for 2 measures, force yourself to rest for 2 measures. It's a great way to learn how to say something meaningful in a defined space and then let it breathe. I'm going to solo for a little bit over the backing track. I'm going to play for 4 beats or close to it, and then I'll sit out for a measure before coming back in. Let's see what that sounds like. So there you have it, 3 principles or rules of rhythm, if you will, that have the potential to totally transform your lead playing if you work at it. Practice starting your licks on a beat other than the downbeat, mix up your subdivisions and shift gears mid-lick, and always leave space so you let your playing breathe. These aren't just concepts to understand. They're things that you really need to get into your practice routine starting today. The players that we admire most, they didn't stumble onto this by accident. They worked at it, and so can you. You want to get away from random noodling and make your playing sound intentional and conversational? Well, then put these 3 principles to work, and I promise you, your solos will start to have that fire and personality that you've been looking for. And if you found this helpful, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. It really does make a difference. As always, work hard, have lots of fun with that guitar. I'll see you next week.